The three parachute clubs required late goals to take the points they wanted in the first round of championship action the weekend just gone. Ipswich Town, of course, a slightly fortuitous penalty in the last minute, earning them a point at Birmingham City. Southampton getting 2 goals for a dramatic 2-1 victory over Wrexham after a difficult first 70 minutes. And then, of course, Leicester City falling behind to Sheffield Wednesday with Barry Bannon's red card late on, helping Leicester to victory thanks to a late header from Wout Fash. But I think the big result in the Championship in the opening weekend was Bristol City's 4-1 victory at Sheffield United. The Blades obviously looking really ropey defensively, actually pretty good as an in-possession entity, certainly in the first half, but some clear vulnerabilities at the back, which we'll get onto. But good starts for newly promoted teams. Birmingham with a really convincing performance against Ipswich. We've seen, haven't we, them smash the Football League points record in League One. I think there was a lot of optimism about what was possible for the Blues stepping up to the Championship with the possibility of back-to-back promotions. Well, we've seen it happen on the pitch, really, in terms of them being so competitive against a promotion favourite in Ipswich Town, and they can take real confidence from that performance. Wrexham, as I mentioned, very competitive against Southampton as well, and possibly deserved something. And then there's Charlton Athletic, of course, beating Watford by 1-0, and elsewhere Millwall got a 2-1 victory at Norwich, fueling their own cause as the Championship's dark horses this season. So plenty to get stuck into on this Championship podcast. So delighted to be joined by my co-host this afternoon, Ollie Mann from Sheffield United way. He's less delighted off the back of that 4-1 defeat to Bristol City. Didn't quite go to plan for you, Ollie.
No, that's one way of putting it. It didn't quite go to plan. There was lots of issues going from the starting 11 to the calamitous defending that we saw at Bramall Lane. I'm sure obviously lots of people will watch it on Sky and they'll know the story of the game themselves. But yeah, very, very frustrating start. Obviously the exact opposite of what the new owners and what Ruben Selles needed this season, because after the really potentially, divisive decision to part ways with Chris Wilder over the summer, the last thing the club can afford is to have a really bad start to this season. And well, it certainly couldn't have gone any worse on Saturday.
I think it's inevitable, whilst somewhat harsh on Ruben Selles in some ways, inevitable that everything that Ruben Selles does is going to be compared with the alternate timeline that we imagine that Sheffield United, which is the alternative that Sheffield United stuck with Chris Wilder and went with his required transfer policy. I think that if that was the case, comparing it with just the opening day, I don't think you would have played the same quality of football that we saw in the first half in terms of the build-up play. And actually, I would argue that Sheffield United are one of the few teams to make an impression on me in the Championship so far as an in-possession entity. But I also don't think you'd have been anywhere near as chaotic. I think you'd have prioritised bringing in an experienced centre-half who can dominate. And I think you'd have been a lot more organised. So right now, the trade-off looks like it might be a net loss, but I think it's a bit early to say that. But it does need some really significant tweaks.
It does, yeah. It's much too early. Selles, I don't think any of it's on him, ultimately. I think, yes, there's possibly some questions about the out-of-possession coaching and how we positioned ourselves so that we were caught out so easily on the break. But also within that, there were individual mistakes by players we knew aren't good enough. I could have told you 2 years ago that Reece Norrington-Davies is not anywhere near good enough to play Championship football. And that was when he was playing in his actual position as a left-back. We tried him as left of a 3 at left centre-back, and okay, wasn't really good enough there, but I could understand why we were trying it. He was just playing as a normal centre-back in this system. 4 at the back with a partnership of Bindon and Reece Norrington-Davies. That is a crime of squad planning. There is no way we should have been going into the first game of the season. And so actually none of this should fall on Ruben Sellers' shoulders. He should not be the man taking the blame for what happened on Saturday, because I thought the way we looked on the ball was really exciting. The way we were trying to build this squad and the way that we were trying to take ourselves forward was really exciting. I liked so much of what I saw for the opening 45 minutes, but the owners have not provided Sellers with a squad that is capable of competing at the top of the Championship, that is capable of playing his style of football. And unless they're going to change that between now and the end of the transfer window, then they've just sent him out to fail. And it's really concerning to see.
Yeah, not the top 20 have a mantra on reacting to opening day games, which is comments, not conclusions. And I very much subscribe to that. I think you got to be very careful to draw anything too much on just 90 minutes of football. I think, as a comment, say, rather than a conclusion, I would say it's interesting, isn't it, how Sheffield United have made these decisions in the summer on the basis of going for a really complex recruitment strategy where they're looking to find those marginal gains, and it's AI based and it's very advanced. And yet I almost feel like if you're looking too far in advance, do you actually miss things that are right in front of you that are really obvious? Like, we need a centre half. That's what Sheffield United have ignored in the last 2 windows, it seems.
Yeah. We've needed a centre half for so long. Like, since Harry Souttar got injured on Boxing Day. So since Boxing Day, we've needed a centre half, and we still don't have one. We've actually sold one. We've not bought any, but we've sold one. It's bizarre. And I've just recorded a video for our channel talking about this, where from the end of last season, United have lost 9 players who played in 15 or more games. That is a huge hole in the squad that so far we've replaced with 2 AI under 21s from Bulgaria. Brilliant. Cheers. They're going to really fill the hole. And then Tyler Binden, who may well become a very good player, but on Saturday, as a comment, looked very much like a player who wasn't ready for the step up to the Championship and will take his time to adapt. I'm not saying he won't. And I do think over the season, he will be a very good footballer and will really come on leaps and bounds. But he can't be our senior starting centre half.
Yeah.
That's mental to put on his shoulders. Louis Barry, who, looked good, quite like him, good signing. And then Samare, who didn't even get on the pitch. So we've had 9 significant contributors from last season leave the club with no real replacements coming through the door. And that's really concerning, because even if we're going for the AI strategy, I thought we'd have some players in. Like, surely the AI strategy isn't don't sign anybody, you'll be fine. Like, there's got to be some work to do. But, you don't draw conclusions. And there were some fantastic things that we saw. And, it's easy to overreact to the moments that went against us rather than the ones that, we could have been brilliant. In the first half, if you'd have said to me, the shot from Sariki that hits Peck and then somehow Vitek saves, goes in the back of the net, suddenly United are 2-1 up, and you think, I think this is a fair reflection of the game so far. Binden maybe doesn't get his feet in a muddle, heads it away, or gets there first instead of Reece, just clears it. It's 1-1. There's so many little moments that were individualized that actually they have completely overshadowed what did have some really good green shoots of progress in the first half. The less we think about the second half, the better.
Very wise. Well, now seems like a great time to bring in Annie Harris from AH Robbins Talk.
I'm going. I'll see you later, guys.
I should have been more sensitive and scheduled in Annie for after you'd gone.
I know your game. Here we go.
Absolutely. Annie, you must be, barely 2 months after you suffered a 6-0 aggregate defeat to Sheffield United in the playoff semi-final. Don't suppose you were anticipating being the 4-1 victors at Bramall Lane?
Definitely not. I think I made a prediction. No, I know I made a prediction on the game, and I said, well, we could take advantage of Sheffield United maybe not being quite ready and stuff like that. And I thought we could maybe nick a draw. And that was me like being really, really optimistic. So no, did not expect a 4-1 victory. And yeah, look, I agree with Ollie, actually. I thought the first half we were quite fortunate to get in ahead at 2-1. I wouldn't have begrudged it if Sheffield United were the side that were 2-1 up. But second half, I thought we started brilliantly. Intensity, like straight away, brilliant. I actually missed the third goal because I was I'm making myself a coffee, but no, brilliant and just fantastic. We I don't know. It's hard to make sort of overriding conclusions on it because it is just the first game. But yeah, look, it's a large proportion of the same team that got into the playoffs last season. There's a lot of quality in it, and it feels like we've added sort of in areas that fits what Struber wants, as in Adam Randall is a high energy, very good dynamic player in the middle of the park, good fit. Emil Reese, as we saw on Saturday, run, literally gets in behind, and that was the reason we scored our second goal. And it feels like we've not added too much, but we've added nice areas, and Saturday showed that. So yeah, didn't expect it, but brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, just to come in, because obviously I've covered a lot about United, but I should say I thought Bristol City were fantastic. I think there really were some fantastic moments in there as well, where you think about their season going forwards and trying to build on the fantastic outcome they had last season. Is it a step back with the manager leaving? Well, actually, I looked at a lot of that squad and some of them were really standout. I thought Scott Twine looks arguably as good as he's ever looked at Championship level. That could be his best 90 minutes in the Championship, because he looked like he'd really bought into the energy that was needed to play the role he was in. When he was on the ball, he was creative, finding the space. The way that he took that free kick obviously gave him so much confidence right from the word go, and I thought that was great to see. The player I'd shout out as much as anything, who I think really will make a massive difference, is Vitek in goal. I thought he was outstanding. I thought he had a fantastic game. Thought he really was. He looks a really, really good pickup for the level. And I think he could be a real difference maker in terms of cutting out some of those mistakes. When I saw a couple of weeks ago, I was like, Joe Lumley's going to be in goal. Joe Lumley's going to be in goal. And then all of a sudden, Joe Lumley was not in goal. But I think there's so much good coming out of that. And I loved as well, obviously, to see Atkinson back fit. I think he's going to be a huge player this season. I think that really did start to look like a settled back three. And so many bright spots for Bristol City that in my depression, I shouldn't overcome, because there is so much in there that they should look at and be really, really excited about. Because I thought they played really well.
Well, you say about the settled back three, we've still got Rob Dickey to come back. We've still got Luke McNally to come back. So there is that definite quality waiting to come back once fit / back from suspension. We've got Cam Pring, got Joe Williams, got Max Bird. We've got real sort of quality, and you've got players in there who I think will adapt nicely to how Struber wants us to play, particularly Cam Pring and Joe Williams. So yeah, there's lots to be excited about. What I noticed different was we played the same system that got us a lot of joy last season, particularly second half. It was the same system. We utilized everything very differently. We pressed in a similar manner, went from goal kicks. Normally last season it was our centre forward, Naki Wells, and Scott Twine, sort of being the front two, if you will, out of possession. And that was kept similar, but we did it with more sort of aggression and did it with a lot more intensity, and it felt like we knew when to properly go, and wasn't as conservative as it was last season, which might work. Did leave quite a few spaces in the first half in particular, which if Sheffield United were a bit more clinical, Vitek doesn't have that good of a game, probably it's more than one. But yeah, that bravery, that aggression, and then the directness to play forward quickly, I think got the best out of Mehmeti, Emil Reese, and Scott Twine. So and Ross McCrory, who I thought was brilliant. So yeah, very excited, and the players to come back as well. So yeah, very positive.
It's interesting, Annie, isn't it? Because I think a lot. One thing I've noticed about the Championship this season is all the pundits have such a consensus about the Championship this season, almost to an unprecedented extent. I've never seen so many 1-24s look so similar. And pretty much everyone has Bristol City mid-table. I've got them 13th. And nobody thinks Bristol City are going to finish thought Bristol City would finish in the top 6 again. Is that a feeling that was accepted among the fan base before the season, or were you speaking for yourself, kind of a bit more optimistic about it?
I'll speak for myself, because honestly, I don't really know what the fan base is thinking. I think there's a lot of sort of different opinions going about, and that's come about with the managerial change. you've got the sort of acceptance that last season was an overperformance. You've also got the feeling that last season there were teams who finished below us that could have easily, if they'd just been a little bit more consistent, could have finished above us and probably should have finished above us, likes of Middlesbrough, Norwich, from the top of my head, who probably have better squads, etc., more money to spend. So there was that. There's obviously the feeling of, are we going to regress under Struber? But I also kind of have the feeling, even if we do regress, that doesn't mean it's a failure because of the high watermark that was there last season. And yeah, I'd be surprised. I'd be astonished, actually, if we finished in the top 6. I thought last season was an opportunity to get in there, and we got in there with a record low points tally, and that showed in the playoffs. But I thought we had a better chance of getting in there last season than we do this time around. And you've got teams around you. You've got 2 teams from League One who I've got predicted to finish above us in Wrexham and Birmingham. And you've also got teams strengthening massively around you. I mean, Norwich, for crying out loud, took our manager and they've spent a lot of money. Middlesbrough, maybe less so, but still, you've got teams at West Brom. You've got teams in there who have been aggressive in the transfer market, more aggressive than us. Is that a good or a bad thing? We'll find out. But you've got teams in there who I think, at their best, should be better than us, and that's the thing. That's just the gripe. But if Struber can get this team playing in a way, tweaks a few things, which was evident on Saturday, and just has a bit of luck with injuries, and once those injured players come back and gets us going in the right direction, adds things to already a pretty settled system that was successful last season, and adds things that weren't there last season to make us even better, there's no reason why we can't be competitive, and I think we will be against most teams in this division. But it's just that quality and general competitiveness against other teams that I think has got us sort of in the middle.
Do you think, Annie, that you mentioned that high retention in terms of squads? I think all bar 4 players in the matchday squad at Bramall Lane were part of the team last season, whereas other teams have gone for bigger rebuilds. I often feel like stable squads can get underestimated at the start of seasons because people go, oh, look at those new signings. And actually, if you've kept players who did well for you last season, then that can be a good thing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't think Struber would have come in and completely sort of ripped everything up and started again. He doesn't come across as that sort of manager who just, he'd want things to go his way, but we would probably recognise as a team there that just something worked with what happened last season. So yeah, you've got that continuity in squad. You've got a change of manager, but hopefully a manager that doesn't change a hell of a lot. And that coupled with the fact that you've got quality in the squad as well, some real quality. And I'd probably say, apart from maybe Jason Knight, in terms of assets, you've probably not got a star player there who is worth 25 million, who was there last season. And that also helps because you don't really have that much interest from clubs higher up in the food chain to come and poach your obviously best player there. So that's a good thing. And the fact that we've not really in a financial situation where we have to sell, Jason Knight or Scott Twine or whatever for big money, and we can make little tweaks in the squad, such as replace Marcus McGuane with Adam Randall, which is a better fit for what Gerhard Struber wants, and replace Naki Wells with Emil Rees, which is also a better fit for what Struber wants. So you've got nice sort of balance in the squad, and I think you've recruited players. Okay, maybe Radek Vitek probably wasn't the signing we wanted to make after signing Lumley, but that was probably definitely because of Max O'Leary's injury. So you feel like you have a plan in terms of what you want to do, and you're signing players who are hopefully going to go in there, maybe not be any massive improvement on what we have, but I think be a better fit into what Struber wants. And that continuity, that sort of clear idea of what we have and what we want to do is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Where was I? I think Definitely it seems like Struber's been able to get the best out of the players that he's got at his disposal early on, which is a really encouraging sign. Ollie, what do you think? Has that performance sort of given you any indication over what might be possible for Bristol City this season?
Yeah, I mean, do you know what? More than anything, we were just talking then when Annie came in and he said, "Oh, by the way, here's all these players who didn't play. Here's all of our strength in depth that we've actually got this season." All of a sudden, maybe we are sleeping a little bit on how good Bristol City's squad is. Now, don't get me wrong. If you were to ask me to predict where they finish today, I still wouldn't have them in the top 6. It's not like you said at the start, Gab. It's comments, not conclusions. And I think the comments are that I think Bristol City are stronger than I had predicted them to be. I think there's a lot more depth in that squad, but I think as well, like Annie said there, the evolution to what Struber needs rather than a revolution of completely ripping it up and starting again really feels as though it could suit the squad that they've got. I think with the players that they had just out on Saturday, there's a really competitive team there that will give a lot of teams in this division a problem. I think it's one of those where it's a watching brief. If they do the same thing again next week, then all of a sudden I might be running down to the bookmakers to see if I can stick a tenner on. But for now, I think it's definitely a sign of progress. And I think, like Annie said, just not making the top 6, that's not a failure of a season. For Bristol City, it's all about building on the work that has come before and really turning this squad into one that is getting itself ready for that real attack at the playoffs. And then hopefully when they get into the playoffs, not getting caught out like last season. And yeah, I thought it was a fantastic start and I'm excited to see where they go actually, because I think there was a lot to really, really like about Bristol City. And I think I think it's going to be an interesting one, how they develop over the next few months.
Scott Twine, Annie, we touched on him earlier. I'm hopeful that this could be a big season for him because he had a great 21-22 season with MK Dons that earned his move to the Championship. But I think the problem with going to Burnley off the back of that was that not only are you stepping up to the Championship, but you're also stepping up to a top-end team, and the level of consistency required is much higher, and therefore it's much harder to get regular games and B, stand out. And so he seemed to lose a little bit of momentum there, and the last 2 or 3 seasons maybe haven't quite gone as he might have hoped. But do you think that this could be a season where his individual quality shines through a bit more?
Well, yeah, that'll be great because we haven't really seen it on a consistent basis, and the fact that he was playing under Liam Manning, you'd have probably expected that because Manning did oversee his best season, Scott Twine's best season of his career. So, yeah, I mean, it would be great if Struber suddenly, found something in Twine or played Twine in a position in the system where it just clicks and he gets the best out of him. I'll be honest, I thought Twine would probably be a loser in this managerial change because I thought high intensity, lots of running, pressing from the front a lot. I don't know if that's his game. But look, if he's going to deliver, produce goals, produce assists, he can play wherever he wants, and that's fine. But yeah, we know about his free kick qualities. I literally wasn't surprised when he scored. It wasn't like, oh wow, it's a penalty. It's a penalty for him at this point, and. Yeah, the second goal was a bit of a deflection, but he was influential in the game. Apart from that, I thought, and he picked up at his best. Scott Twine picks up spaces and produces, balls through, finds runners, moves to play quickly, moves to play fast, and produces quality. He's normally, or sometimes, Scott Twine is the player that passes the ball before the assist, which goes unnoticed. He produces a key pass through to one of the flanks, the ball then goes into the box, something like that. So I think that's when Scott Twine is at his best, when he's got the freedom, when suddenly it feels like no one's around him. It's not by accident. He's done that, and he's done that really, really well, particularly MK Don. So yeah, I'm hopeful, and I was surprised that. Well, I would have been surprised if you'd have said this, like, I don't know, he'd have a great season after the managerial change. But look, he's definitely one of the most exciting players in the squad, and he's got a really high ceiling. He's had a little bit of struggle to adapt to the Championship. Hull Burnley, and last season wasn't his best. Didn't produce high numbers for a team that finished in the playoffs and played a lot of games for us as well. So yeah, I would love to see a fully fit, fully firing Scott Twine that's ready for, available for 40 games or something, and can really make an impact on this team, because he is definitely one of our key players. We haven't really got a hell of a lot of creativity. You've got Mehmeti, you've got Max Bird, you've Mark Sykes. You've got players, but
Sure.
I think when Scott Twine is at his best compared to everyone else's best, it's just a bit of a different level. So yeah, Scott Twine is important, and hopefully he is the best of him is brought out in the system.
Absolutely. Annie, keep up the great work on AH Robin Stock, and I'm sure we'll catch up with you later in the season.
Cheers, Gab. Cheers, Ollie.
Top
man. We will bring in Dan Finch from Charlton in a moment, but first I want to be joined by Martin Sanders of Football Martin, Southampton fan. Martin, thanks so much for joining us. I think that could have gone another way, couldn't it, at the weekend? For 70 minutes, Southampton looked a little bit on the ropes, and Wrexham had their chances and got themselves ahead as well. But I think the last 20 minutes showed your strength in depth.
Yeah, no, the strength in depth, it definitely shone through. But I think the big takeaway from me was the level of fitness. I spoke to you about it many weeks ago. He's really worked on the fitness. Let's go back. So after the last World Cup, we were getting outran by sides in the Premier League before we got relegated the first time round under Nathan Jones. And under Martin, it was a ball heavy side. They kept the ball for such long periods of the time. They didn't have to work to go and get it because they had it all the time. But still wants to play a different style. He wants to get on the front foot. He wants to get the players fit. So he's put them through a pre-season that a lot of players would have never, ever had experienced in their careers. And he's got the likes of Ryan Fraser, incredibly fit. He looks so lean. Jack Stevens is at centre-back at the weekend. Not really one of the quickest players ever, but he was really sharp the weekend. And I noticed that right the way across the squad, that the pitch was a bit sticky in the first half. I thought the ball didn't really roll like it. It's not an excuse, but it just didn't really roll. But Saints have got, you look at the bench the weekend. You're Cameron Archer on the bench, Damien Downs, Ross Stewart, Mateus Fernandez. He had really good weapons from the bench, and I tell you what, he was really brave because 1-0 down, Gavin Bazunu, who he's put faith in because Ramsdale's gone out on loan to Newcastle, makes an incredible save. He makes a really good one-on-one save. I think it was from Josh Windass. And really, it set Saints up at that stage. And they were building. And then Ryan Manning, he come off the bench as well. Again, a really good Championship player from the bench is come on. And to be fair, he was the match winner, Manning.
Yeah, certainly was. I think I'm kind of torn between appreciating the depth, appreciating the fitness, and appreciating, I guess, the resolve and the mentality to keep going till the end, which I think is significant. Yeah. And also feeling like performance-wise, maybe wanted a little bit more. Are you concerned at all that maybe you weren't able to control the game in the way that you were hoping?
Yeah, I think we're missing a couple of bodies really, and I think the one area we are really missing is a ball carrier from midfield. I think we need somebody that can get the ball and move and run with it and dictate the play. Fernandez will do that, but I don't see him staying. I think he's a really good player, and I think he'd be too good to probably play at that level. No disrespect to the league, I think he's such a talent. The Saints had a lot of shots at goal. They're 27. I've got the stats in front of me. They're 26 shots at goal, 10 on target. The issue was they never really tested Danny Ward in goal. He didn't really threaten him, I don't think, enough. They're a little bit toothless in and around the 18-yard, 6-yard box. That was a little bit of a concern for me. So I think they're going to need to find creative players. I think he still needs wide men, people that can play out wide, that can get crosses in the box. And I still think he needs to nail down the system he's going to play, because he started with a 5 at the back, which is a bit strange to me. Adam Armstrong played through the middle. He's just not a number 9. I'm sorry, but he's just not a number 9 for me.
Agreed.
He's not good enough to play through the middle. He needs to play with a stronger target man that can hold the play. I've got to say, with Wrexham, I thought until he got injured, Kiefer Moore was really good. He was really strong. Him and Windass will be a really good combo in that league, and they'll score loads of goals between them. They were a real handful, the pair of them, and Saints did deal with them quite well. But I am a little bit concerned about us higher up the field, and are we going to score enough goals, Gab? That's my big concern.
It's interesting, Ollie, isn't it? Because Martin's asking whether Southampton will score enough goals, but they have got some options there up top. They've brought in Damien Downs from abroad. They've got Cameron Archer, who scored lots of goals at this level before. They've got Jay Robinson, who's come through the academy and looks like an exciting prospect, and Adam Armstrong as well. Do you see the firepower in the Southampton squad?
I mean, we've just done that without mentioning Ben Brereton Diaz, and we've done that without mentioning, there's so many players. I don't think we mentioned Ross Stewart in terms of players who, 2 years ago we'd have said were some of the best attackers in the Championship. Right now, they're not even third, fourth choice. So I think there's definitely the strikers there to look at scoring those goals. But obviously, there's the question mark over the consistency that they've been able to show over the last 2 years. I think since his breakout spell with Middlesbrough, there's been real question marks over Cameron Archer and probably the career decisions that he's made coming to us and then going immediately from us to, with no disrespect intended, basically the exact same situation at Southampton of two teams in the Championship who just weren't good enough to be in the Premier League, who just weren't good enough to be there. So for me, the big question is, how are you going to get confidence into those front players? Because I do think the quality is there. I think the strength in depth is ridiculous. I think there's the creativity from midfield with some of those players. Maybe it's not the ball carriers, but players like Shea Charles are going to create and be the really top Championship midfielders that as this season goes on, we will be talking about as sort of really dominating those positions. For me, it's about getting confidence back into some of those players, because after such a punishing time in the Premier League, it takes a long time to really get going again. Ben Brereton Diaz, I assume, will be on his way out of Southampton, to be honest, given that he doesn't look like he's at the right level. He didn't really look there for us last year. But certainly I'm looking at that, and if Southampton haven't got enough strikers, then my word, I don't know what we're going to do.
Martin, you've mentioned, I'd love to hear if you've got any sort of thoughts on Ollie's comments there, but just to add to that, are you feeling like you'd be quite happy to tick over August with a reasonable points tally and then feel like you back yourselves to catch fire maybe from September onwards after the first international break? Because that's when the parachute payment clubs do tend to come better, because in August there's a lot of uncertainty over key players, and you've got that hanging over you.
Yeah, there's no around players. I think Ollie made a good point about Shea Charles. I was super impressed with him the weekend. Obviously watched him in his first season here. He's gone away to Sheffield Wednesday and he's come back and he's bulked out. He's strong. And nobody's really talking about the ball that he played to Ryan Manning for the final goal for the winner. It was a brilliant pass in behind the fullback to get Manning on it, and he got the pull back, and the goal was scrappy, but we got it in. That was the most important thing. But yeah, I think that the next sort of 3 games are really, it's a tricky time, isn't it? Because there's noise around Tyler Dibbling. Obviously Everton have now signed Jack Grealish, so that may change what happens with Tyler, but he's training away from the first team squad. There was no sign of him around St Mary's at the weekend. He's handled it well. I've got to say, he's handled the situation really, really well. He's took the sting out of it. He's pretty much said, well, look, if he doesn't go anywhere, he'd be a big part of my plans. But as it stands, we need him all in. We need him if he's going to play. If he wants to be here, he needs to show that he wants to be here. The club need the funds. That's the problem. So they're going to sell him. Fernandez has noise around him. He didn't look his normal self the weekend because he's not had a proper pre-season. And yeah, I'm just not convinced that he'll be here come the start of September. Just try and get through. We've got a big one at the weekend against Ipswich. I watched Ipswich Friday night. I think Saints actually played far better than Ipswich did on Friday night. I thought as the game went, we really got going late on. I think we'll give them a really good game. I think it's a great matchup. Sunday lunchtime kickoff, that one for the cameras. I think it'd be a really good game. And then it's Stoke at home. Always potential banana skin for us. We don't really do that well against Stoke at home. We got Watford away as well. We just need to get out of this little block. The international break comes at the end of the window, and then it's the South Coast derbies on the other side of it. I don't like when the derby is, Ollie. I don't like it. I don't know about you, Gab. The timing of it for me is all wrong. It's just because you're still transitioning it. But once we can kind of get later into September, I do think we'll be okay.
All wrong or all right for Portsmouth, for Martin?
Perfect for them. perfect for them. They will look at that. I think it's a great time to play us. Really, if it had been at Fratton, I think they would have been like, they would have loved it to be at Fratton. The fact it's down at our place makes it slightly different. And we would definitely be the favourites in it. We've got the stronger squad. We've got a good group, and be interesting to see what we're left with. Whether they can get Brereton Diaz out the door, it will be interesting. He's not liked here at all. He's never just not done anything here. I think there's a lot of players that get out the door. Bella Kotchap's another one. Samuel Dozy, he wasn't involved at the weekend neither. A lot of speculation around his future, where he's going to go. He's making a decision on where he goes, but he won't be a Saints player. And the other one was Joe Aribo. He didn't feature again at the weekend. So there's a lot of movement to get players out, but they're definitely probably going to need cover at right back. Like I said, probably need a number 10. We're short of a wide man. So you probably think there's 3 to come in with like 5 or 6 to go out the door. So there's a lot to be done sort of in this little window now.
Absolutely. Martin, thanks so much for joining us, and keep up the great work on the channel.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, guys. I really appreciate it.
Cheers, Martin.
Cheers.
And Ollie, I know you're running on a tight schedule today, so lovely to have you on as co-host as always, and speak to you soon.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Gav. Massively appreciated. Lovely to see everybody. Great to be back. Just wish I was back in better circumstances.
Absolutely. Cheers,
See you
Ollie.
later, mate.
We will be joined by Nick from Ashton Millwall in a moment, but delighted to be joined by Charlton fan Dan Finch. Thanks so much for joining us, Dan. Really appreciate your time. Just wondering, after that 1-0 victory over Watford, were you happy with that opening performance?
Yeah, I was thrilled with the opening performance. I think we got exactly what we thought we'd get in terms of a typical Nathan Jones performance. Quite happy to surrender the ball at times and let Watford have it, but defensively strong and try and play off their mistakes, which we did really well. I thought there was a couple of occasions where obviously Watford looked a bit dangerous, but I think in general, the defence held up. I didn't expect anything else from Kane Ramsey and Lloyd Jones, to be honest, but I think to confirm a prior and they would make the comfy step up. Murray Bell looked great, and then can you attack off that? And I thought we did a pretty good job. We probably were unlucky not to get a penalty. Maybe Watford as well. I think maybe one each on the penalty front, but we created enough chances, I think, to maybe edge it.
Yeah, talk to me about Lloyd Jones, and are we looking at somebody who's going to be really important to your defensive efforts this season with his aerial dominance?
Yeah, I mean, you just nailed it on the head. I don't. Again, another game where I watched it, I don't think he's lost a header all day, to the point where he obviously got the assist for Nibsy's winner. So him and Ramsey especially was so pivotal for us last season. I think that the question, as I said, was, are they going to be able to step up? And neither of them looked out of place on Saturday at any point. I think both aerially and kind of on the floor, both Ramsey and Jones were still as dominant as they ever were. And obviously Jones offers that a bit more attacking intent as well from some set pieces.
Yeah, obviously the big player to replace from your promotion-winning League One squad was Thierry Small, Dan. How did Rob Apter fare on his debut as perhaps the replacement?
Yeah, I mean, I thought Rob Apter had a really good game. I can see why Nathan Jones has gone for him. I think he's got that pace, and what's the right way of saying it? Like, he kept getting the ball in nice areas.
I think Thierry Small's quick, but I think he's skillful and he likes to leap. Whereas I think Rob Apter is just kind of has the ability to just knock the ball ahead of himself and run onto it, and a bit more directness perhaps. Yeah,
and I think also his play with others, it was really strong with Sonny Carey, which you kind of expect because they were at Blackpool together.
Yeah.
But one of Thierry Small's kind of downside was the link-up play wasn't quite there. Right. I felt Rob Apter's ability to get the ball off Amari Bell and play into areas, or because there's quite a few kind of switch from left to right from Amari Bell onto Rob Apter's side. And obviously Ramsey, then there was a few times where Ramsey kind of underlapped him and he was able to find him, or vice versa. So I think I can see the improvements on Thierry Small, and also his crossing was actually quite good. He got unlucky with a couple of crosses where you may be hoping that Tyrese Campbell or Josh Edwards off the left were going to quite get there and just missed out.
Yeah, absolutely. You've obviously been active in the window, signing the likes of Charlie Kelman and Sonny Carey, who you mentioned there. What kind of a difference have they made to your attack so far?
Yeah, I mean, Sonny Carey was fantastic yesterday. Just it again, a bit like Rob Apter, energy and directness that he provided. He's very unlucky not to score. He had a couple of half chances where the Watford keeper made some good saves off him. just getting on the ball. What we lacked, I can't remember how many times I said to you on pods last year that we were just missing a 10 to kind of get up and help the front two.
Yeah,
we saw it yesterday. Sonny Carey is more energetic than probably Luke Berry, naturally, because of the age, but able to get up and almost free Tyrese Campbell to move to the left, which Tyrese wasn't have his best performance on Saturday, but I'm sure he'll come back at some point. Just having Carey in and around the box. There was one where he literally just drives the ball pretty much from the halfway line into the corner flag and then gets a shot off, and it's not something that we're used to from that number 10 position. So it's a massive improvement. We didn't get to see a lot of Charlie Kelman. He's not had a pre-season. So we were kind of shocked that he was even starting, to be honest. But I think with our style of football, it's going to be difficult for him to transition to. So he's going to have to get used to being the kind of target man that isn't expected to get into the box, rather than later on where he was given a bit more freedom to be a striker. And Nathan Jones is quite rigid, isn't he? So
yeah, I think with Charlie Kelman, Kane was a bit of a surprise when he scored 23 goals for Leyton Orient last season, because he's had a few seasons in the Football League, and a lot of the time he's been a very willing runner, but not necessarily the goal scorer. So we're looking at a small sample size in terms of scoring goals, but I'm not sure whether I would see him being that target man presence and whether he's physical enough for that. But so we'll have to wait and see. But certainly in terms of the aggression and energy against the ball that Nathan Jones wants, he can certainly bring that. I wanted to ask you about Greg Doherty and Connor Coventry and how they've stepped up to the Championship on their opening games evidence.
I thought Connor Coventry was fine. Very similar from Connor. Connor's performances are always kind of a strong 7 out of 10. You know, he does really good in space. I think the more the game went on, Connor looked more confident, especially on the ball. I think Greg Doherty had probably one of his worst games in the Charlton shirt. But again, we can't judge how he steps up off one game. I just thought there was a couple of times where he was caught on the ball or made the wrong decision. I think just that little bit quicker from League One might be affecting him. But obviously it's one game, so we can't judge too hard. Hopefully he'll be fine. The good news is, obviously, we've got like Rankin Costello to come on now, which we didn't have that option last year. We only kind of had Karoy Anderson. We now have 2 options. So yeah, there's an option there if we need to swap him out, but it's only one game. So hopefully, Bristol City will see a different side to him.
Absolutely. Has that... I don't think Charlton fans were overly worried about the likelihood of relegation before the season. I always felt like there was a quiet confidence that you'd beat the drop. Really important not to judge too much on opening games, because it's very easy to read too much into them or whatever. But has that kind of provided some kind of reassurance that opening day?
Yeah, I think so. I think a lot of Charlton fans were a bit apprehensive to kind of scream and shout that we were better than people were giving us credit for. But I think we kind of proved that we're willing fighters at minimum, and I think that kind of helped Charlton fans. As I said to you before, I think a lot of Charlton fans will just take staying up, and I think Watford was a nice kind of borderline team for us to kind of show what team we could be. And I think that kind of performance hopefully can show. I think the fan base is expecting to stay up anyway, but I think that's a nice kick to boost it off.
Certainly is. Dan, thanks so much for joining us, and look forward to catching up with you later in the season.
See you later, mate.
Great stuff. Well, from one corner of South London to another, delighted to be joined now by Nick Hart from the Ashtung Millwall podcast.
Well done, Gabe.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm pretty much there now, I think.
Yeah, you're getting there, mate. Fluent.
Absolutely. So 2-1 victory for Millwall at Norwich, picking up from where you left off, I guess, at the end of last season.
Yeah, really good showing, Gabe. I mean, the first half was a fairly kind of tight affair. I thought Norwich probably had the majority of possession without creating too much in the way of chances. I think our goalkeeper only had to make one save, and then we came close towards the end of the first half. Second half, though, we really did take it up a gear. Really impressive second half from Millwall, and we really took the game to them. And probably should have had more than the 2 goals that we actually got, which is a step forwards, because I think we averaged 1 goal a game pretty much last season, and only conceded 1 goal a game, which is the other side of the coin. But we do need to score more goals, and strong signs on Saturday. It was a really strong performance, great away day. Great to see the likes of Camille Negley getting amongst the goals, one of our record signings, our record signing, not one of them. And also the forgotten man, Macaulay Langstaff, getting on the end of a beautiful pass, a work of art. Gabe. It was one of those paintings that should be hung in the National Gallery. A ball from Alfie Doughty, a Millwall fan, forwards into the path of Macaulay, who put it away like Toto Schillaci, 1990 era. It was wonderful stuff to see. One for your older listeners. Do you have any older listeners? We'll find out in the comments. Toto Schillaci, older listeners. It's beautifully put away. 2-1 and a magnificent win. Really good start to the season. So yeah, no, it's good. Enjoyed it.
Absolutely. I'm sort of having to double take hearing a Millwall goal just being described as a work of art, Nick.
Yeah, well, this is the new era, mate. This is the new era at the Den. Yeah. We've moved away from blood and thunder and guts. No, it's been impressive. I mean, all of the players seem to really responded well to Alex Neil. A manager who I wasn't really excited about when he came to us. I'll be hands up, but he seems to be a really intelligent manager and a much warmer personality than I maybe have given him credit for without knowing too much about him in his previous jobs. But he's certainly come in and players are really developing, and I'd include Langstaff in that. He's obviously had a great career in the lower division, scoring goals freely in the National League and League Two with Notts County.
Yeah,
came to us last season and has been a bit of in the wilderness a little bit. So it was just magnificent to see him get on the end of a beautifully weighted pass and put it away so well. It was quite interesting listening to Alex Neil in the week. He was on one of the radio stations saying how he'd worked with Macaulay, telling him to not go for the kind of hero shot, just put it on target. Do what you do, and get away from the kind of idea that every goal's got to be a world-class top left-hand corner blast. Yeah. And I think Saturday was good evidence of that. So there's a lot of other players improving around. I actually don't really want to come on your show anymore and talk about us because I like being the dark horse under the radar. So this is the first and last time I'm going to be on your show this season, Gabriel Son. Only joking.
I'm wondering, Macaulay Langstaff you mentioned there. I think there was probably his stock was much higher 12 months ago because he was off the back of scoring a ton of goals for Notts County in League Two, and whereas this season it was kind of off the back of a bit of a nothing season for him last year. But what I'm quite excited about is whereas I think it was hard for him under Neil Harris because of the style of football, I do think that the style under Alex Neil is going to play to his strength. I think there's going to be better service to him, and I'm hopeful that if he gets his opportunities, which is not going to be easy with Ivanovic there as well, I think he might take his chances and provide a bit of competition.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a rare thing to see two strikers in a modern game of football. And, for a long time at the Den, we've had just the sole striker, the target man that you pump the ball forwards. And that's not Macaulay. I mean, there's no point in using a player in a position where he's not going to shine. I do think that Alex Neil's worked out his strengths. And running onto the ball put in front of him like we saw Saturday seems to be his strength. So, at last the penny has dropped. And I also take my hat off to him because I'm sure it would have been easy for him to ask to be loaned out and get away from a club where, he's come in with high hopes, the track record we've mentioned, the goal scoring record. And it just hasn't worked out for him. So to get amongst it and to be seen as a valid member of that squad, and it was quite noticeable when he got the winning goal, as it turned out Saturday, he had a team surrounded him and pushed him forward to take the applause at the end of the game. It was really nice to see it. A lot of team support, really good vibe around the club. But yeah, no, all I want to say to every other club manager watching this show is we're playing old school Lumpit football, park the bus. You'll get the Millwall you know and love. That's all I'm going to say on it.
Absolutely. Camille Negley, Nick, he has a bit of a fierce shot on him, doesn't he?
He looks like a wonderful player. The first goal, was a crossing from Tristan Kramer from the right side into.
Yeah, nice because he's a centre half by trade, Tristan Kramer. So to
centre half, doubling up as a really good right back. He'd made a couple of crosses earlier on that, as I keep making the same jokes, I'm going to make it on your show because you won't have heard it yet. But when I teed off on the driving range the other day, I also sent my crosses off at 45-degree angles to the straight line that I wanted. And that was a couple of Tristan's crosses went straight into behind the byline. So I thought, oh God, this is going to be a long afternoon, But when he gets it together, he's really good defensively, and he put a beautiful cross in for Camille to control. I think he controlled it with one foot and put it away with his right foot and put it away with his left, which is, you know, a new world from our point of view. He buried it, and it looked a really strong player. And just to mention to any Millwall fans watching, something I didn't think to mention on my podcast, is he actually did some really good defensive work late in the half as Norwich pressed forwards. He was back and cleared a late move across a pass across the penalty area, and it was Camille that was back there clearing it. So he's no flamboyant attacking only kind of player. I really like the look of him. It gave me a bit of reassurance that the club record fee has been well spent. You know, he absolutely buried it. And if we can just discount the slapstick equaliser, which was the kind of thing that you get in comedy films, you know, apart from that, was a really, really strong display. And the goalkeeper, Bender, really good display. Apart from that one moment of kicking the ball out and it hitting the backside of Josh Sargent, the most expensive backside in football, the most lethal backside in football.
Expensive backside.
Went in the net.
Why do you do?
He was running away from the ball, and the goalkeeper kicked it and hit him on the arse, and it's gone in the net. And that's for an £18 million striker, that's gold dust, isn't it? If you can even turn your bum into goal scoring, you know, material. There we
Absolutely.
are. But no, it all worked out well in the end. And also Femi Aziza missed an absolute screamer of a chance. I mean, how that went over the bar, I still don't know. I don't think Femi would know, because I would normally back him to bury it. So a lot of storylines worked out really nicely Saturday. It was a good day out and really enjoyable win. So, you know, optimism levels have turned up to 11 at the Den right now. It's
yeah.
All we're going to do is go for the season unbeaten. That's all we've got to do to keep the optimism at the levels they're at the moment.
Yeah. So has that kind of whet your appetite for the rest of the season then, Nick?
Blimey, I think everyone can't wait for the next. We've got to go to Newport. This has got a high banana skin, you know, shoot us down in flames potential. That's tomorrow night in the Caribou Cup, Newport County away. But no, we've got Middlesbrough next Saturday. It's going to be a very, very good atmosphere at the Den for that one. And it was a big test on Saturday, in all seriousness. I thought, you know, Norwich have spent big. They've got a decent-looking squad. They looked a bit rusty and not quite at the races, but they will improve. Middlesbrough, always you'd say we won the teams that would expect to be in the top half of the table. So it's going to be another tester Saturday. But no, really hopeful. Really good afternoon, and some really good football, especially in that second half. So fingers crossed.
Encouraging stuff. Nick, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Keep up the great work on the podcast.
Fantastic. Thank you, mate.
Cheers. So my final guest this evening is Lox from the Blue Tinted Glasses podcast on Leicester City. Lox, good evening. Thanks so much for joining us. Made heavy weather of that one, more so than you were maybe anticipating, but created lots of chances in the second half and got there in the end with White Vass's header.
Yes, mate. Yeah. An interesting afternoon for the first game of the season, that's for sure. Didn't really go to plan, as a lot of Leicester fans would have hoped. We would have hoped for a much more comfortable 3 points. But yeah, at the end of the day, it is 3 points. I think back, Gab, to 2 years ago under Enzo Maresca, the first game of the season. We played Coventry at home at the King Power Stadium, and we went a goal down, and we came from behind, and Dewsbury Hall scored 2 goals.
Yeah. He was amazing in that second half that day, wasn't he, Dewsbury Hall?
Well, I think for the general Championship fan, but also Leicester fans especially in that game, it was kind of like, okay, this is the man who's gonna grab, you know, the ball by the horns this season and bring us back up. Yesterday it wasn't quite like that. It was a bit of a different situation with you know, 2 headers. One header, 2 centre backs score, and 1 header, one again from a set piece. But I think, you know, I've seen a lot of negativity online, Gab, from some Leicester fans, but more so from other Championship fans saying that Leicester are rubbish, and, you know, we were embarrassed by Sheffield Wednesday. And to be honest, I don't really see it that way. I think we started the game poorly, of course. Sheffield Wednesday were fully up for it. They gave everything in that first half, and the fans and the players were a credit to the club. Yeah. They were exceptional. But I just think in the end, mate, the quality showed, the difference in quality between the two squads, and the fact that Wednesday haven't had a pre-season, that showed, because you saw their players breaking down in that second half, physically. I think a couple of injuries, a couple of players going down with cramp. Fatigue obviously was setting in, and Barry Bannon with the red card, which again, that's another debate whether that should have been a second yellow. But I'm not doom and gloom, mate. Of course, we would have loved to win 4-0, of course, but there was enough there for me to show that we're going to be fighting, as some people disagree with. We are going to be fighting towards the top end of the table this year.
Let's hope that's the case. I thought Harry Winks coming on made all the difference. There's been talk that Winks could be one of those that's offloaded between now and the end of the window in order to, sales for PSR and all that kind of stuff. But I think he's someone that if you were able to retain, he would make a huge difference to your promotion push, because he does bring something different to that midfield that maybe Skip and Samaria don't quite offer.
Absolutely. Look, the relationship between Harry Winks and the Leicester fans isn't the greatest at the moment, and that's because of off the pitch stuff last year. He fell out with the manager. Harry Winks potentially, you could say, was hard done to. I think he was hard done to by Ruud van Nistelrooy, but there was more to it following that. Like the day we were relegated, for example, against Liverpool, he was posting photos in a beer garden drinking an Aperol Spritz, right? Which isn't great, right? No. Clearly it's a hit back, but the fans aren't the ones that you fell out with, mate. It was rude. So, however, mate, he came on and he changed the game. Skip and Samari, the reason those two started were because of the Fiorentina game, the last pre-season friendly, where they started and they really complemented each other really well in that game. Skip doing a lot of the legwork. Samari kind of playing in that Harry Winks role from yesterday and from 2 years ago, kind of just sitting in the hole and, pinging passes, 1-2s and all of that good stuff. Deep line playmaker, if you want to call it that. But this time round, it just wasn't working. Oliver Skip had a mediocre game, I would say at best. Bouba Samare, he was steady in my opinion, but I just don't think there was enough. There was enough from the team. I don't think we were creating enough. I don't think we were finding those, intricate passes enough. And we know that Harry Winks can do that to a T. So I'm really impressed that Martí Cifuentes recognised that straight away at half-time. It would have been very easy for him to stick with that same 11 in the second half for another 10, 20 minutes and see what happened. Other managers would have done it, but he made the change at half-time. And it showed. I keep seeing people say that Barry Bannon getting sent off was the catalyst. I don't think it was at all. I don't think that's true. I think it was Harry Winks. I think when Harry Winks came on, instantly Leicester looked a lot better. And you mentioned the rumours he's linked with Valencia, Fiorentina as well. I think it's crazy, mate. But 48 hours ago, if you asked Leicester fans, they would have said, "Oh yeah, we'll do. We'll take that. We'll take a few million for Harry Winks." But now suddenly, after yesterday's game, Leicester fans are saying, "Oh, hold on a second. If he goes, he's still really, really important, and we could miss him."
Absolutely, very. I think he can do that deep line playmaker role if you like, and I think he can play slightly higher up, more like a creative 8. So I think he can do both really well, whichever way you want to use him. So really versatile in that regard. What I really enjoyed, Locks, was that moment with Sefi Mavadidi where he took on 3 defenders and created something and nearly scored one of the goal, a really impressive goal. Didn't quite pan out that way, but he shows that with his combined with his close dribbling ability, with that physicality that he offers, he can be a real threat at this level.
Yeah, we spoke, what was it, 2 weeks ago, and I said to you then that I believe, obviously biased, but I believe Leicester have the best options out wide in the Championship. I still believe that, and I think you saw Abdul Fattah didn't have an amazing game, but you could see the quality that he had, the explosiveness that he had. And Steffi Mavididi, yeah, look, the Championship the Premier League last season didn't go to plan for him, and he's still guilty of his head drops very easily. If he can't beat his man, his head drops, and sometimes it's difficult for him to get back in the game. But he had fun. He had fun, and it's interesting. After the Fiorentina game last weekend, where we won, and the wingers had great joy, he did put an Instagram post up. I don't know if you saw it, and it was a photograph of him and Abdul, and the caption was, "Get your popcorn ready. We're gonna have fun this year." Which obviously makes the fan happy and get them excited. But I can see why he said that, because we saw it 2 years ago. He was one of the best wingers in the Championship, and I think that will be the case again this year. Steffi Mavididi is one of them players. It's a 9 out of 10 or it's a 5 out of 10, right? And I think there's going to be many more incredible performances from him later in the year. I think he's going to get on the score sheet. He's going to get assists. The worry isn't out wide. If there's a worry, if there's any concern for Leicester this season, it's not the wide options. Although we have just had a rumour linking Fatawi to Everton. So if he was to go, then there would be concern. But I don't think he will go this window. I think it'll be one for January or next summer, to be honest. So, yeah.
Yeah, you've got four great options in the wide area, so that's clearly one of the strongest areas of the squad. How has Sunday's performance moved you in any way, either way, Locks, on what's possible for Leicester this season, or are you pretty much, as I imagine, about where you were when we did the summer deep dive?
Yeah, absolutely, mate. I'm exactly where I was. I've not moved either way. With Marti Cifuentes, look, I look at how Leicester started that game yesterday, and it's quite obvious, blatantly obvious, that this is the same squad, almost, from not only last year in the Premier League, not only the year before that in the Championship, but the year before that in the Premier League, the 22-23. This Leicester side are renowned for starting games quite poorly, games quite slowly. It even happened under Enzo Maresca. We started games rather slowly. I talk about the Coventry game on the opening day 2 years ago. I don't know what it is. I don't know if the only thing I could put it down to is maybe a mentality issue. I don't know. It's something that obviously Marti Cifuentes is going to want to get out of the players to change. But the fact that the first half performance wasn't ideal doesn't concern me too much at all. I think that Marty made a mistake as well, right? Even though Samari and Skip played well the week before, you'd imagine that a manager, at this level should know that, should have thought that Harry Winks was probably the best option, and he made that change at halftime, and I think that he'll get all the credit for that. It changed the game. So yeah, I'm not. When I say there are Leicester fans out there who are quite negative, not many are disheartened too much by the game yesterday. You will say that one of the goals was a corner. One of the goals people say is an offside that should have been given as offside. I see that offside call as a VAR offside. But prior to VAR, I don't think anyone moans about that. Harry Winks didn't touch the ball. Yes, he might have interfered with play, but I don't think there was too much in it. But that's just me being biased. So yeah, mate. I'm not disheartened. I'm still very positive. When the points deduction hits, that's a different story, of course. But for now, I think, I'm going into every game still thinking, yeah, we'll pick up the win here. We've got Preston next weekend away at Deepdale, and I fully expect Leicester City to pick up 3 points there as well. And we're still bedding in. We're still settling in under the new manager. He's been here for 4 weeks. That's it. You can play all the friendlies you want, but until you get into the competitive games, that's when you really start learning a lot. And the manager, right, as well, learning a lot about the squad. So there's still a lot of excitement there for me, mate.
Great stuff. Locks, thank you so much for talking to us, and keep up the great work on Blue Tinted Glasses.
Thank you, mate. Awesome. See you soon. Cheers, mate.
Cheers, Locks. Well, there you have it. This has been the EFL Debate Championship podcast. Thanks for everyone watching. If you like what we do here, you can do us a massive favour by getting subscribed to us on YouTube and on Spotify. And we'll see you again for another Summer Deep Dive, another Championship podcast very soon. I'll see you next week.